game last weekend.
A lot of good Pac-12 crossovers. Oregon in a must-win game if they're going to be an elite team after they got their teeth kicked in by Georgia a couple weeks ago. BYU getting 3.5.
Numbers say BYU, spot says Oregon, although I'm not sure what to make of Oregon. I mean, you got a really bad data point and a really good one on two ends of the spectrum, an FCS team and the defending national champ. We will find out what Oregon is about this year. I'm going to lean Oregon, but, I hate fading BYU. I just faded them last week, and I lost going up against them.
Washington State in a look-ahead spot, 16.5 against Colorado State.
Yeah, I did bet Colorado State, even though they looked awful. I mean, I don't know if you guys follow the market much. What in the world was all that money on Colorado State last week? I mean, that line moved a touchdown and couldn't have been more wrong. They lose outright as a two-touchdown favorite. With that being said, I think it is a good spot to buy really low on them. Give me them plus 16.5.
Huskies, Washington, 3.5 against Michigan State.
Man, a lot of respect towards Washington blowing through that key number of 3. I agree that they should be favored, but not more than 3. So give me Michigan State and also give me the over.
We know San Diego State can run. Can they throw? If they can't run, what the hell do they do against Utah? The Utes are 21.
It seems pricey against San Diego State, but I'm here to tell you, I have not been impressed with San Diego State. Not only losing outright to Arizona in the opener, I mean, they weren't that impressive against a terrible Idaho State team. I mean, UNLV had a more impressive performance against Idaho State than San Diego State did. So I am actually going to lay the 21 with the Utes.
Did you upgrade Nebraska after they fired Scott Frost?
I did bet him in this game. I love Nebraska this week. So I didn't necessarily upgrade them because they are coming off such a terrible performance, but I would not be surprised by any stretch if they were to break through and actually win the game outright. So I took 16. I would take anything above 10. That's how bad of an opening number I thought that was.
What'd you make of Oklahoma coming in? Because this is pretty much like the first real test we're going to see from them. What would you make of the Sooners with this new look, staff, everything that we know about them?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure that we know because they played a couple of tomato cans. They basically met expectations in both games. So this is their first. They're going to get punched in the mouth back for the first time this year, and we'll see with a first-year coach. I also like the under. Check that win forecast. So dog and under in that one.
Brad Powers, BradPowerSports.com, at BradPowers7, up on Twitter. Crossover game, SEC, Big Ten, Penn State on the road, 3 against Auburn.
I want 3.5, but I'm not sure I'm going to get there. I'll take the 3 then with Auburn. Now, they haven't been that impressive, but something tells me they've been playing possum a little bit against 2 relatively weak opponents. I just can't bring myself to laying a full field goal on the road in SEC country, particularly when I thought last year Auburn outplayed Penn State. I bet Penn State in that game last year and felt very fortunate to cash a ticket. So I think Auburn gets revenge. They went outright.
Man, what a total in SMU and Maryland. It's 74. The little Tagovailoa is a hell of a quarterback. So what happens in this one with the number of 74?
Yeah, I mean, that along with the USC-Fresno game are the 2 highest totals we've seen in college football so far this season. Now, the last 2 years, if you have blindly bet the under in every total in college football that's lined in the 70s, actually 24-11 to the under.
Wow.
So I'm gonna go against the grain and lean under in that game, but I'll tell you what I prefer. I'm gonna lay the 2.5 with Maryland. I think there's still some question marks on SMU with a first-year coach. Give me the Terps minus the 2.5.
Opposite end of the spectrum, a 39 on the board. Iowa's laying 23 against Nevada.
You know, my numbers called for Iowa pretty strong on Sunday. It was 20 at Circa. I couldn't do it. I mean, I can't lay that number, even though I think Nevada's really terrible. Obviously losing into an FCS opponent last week. And I think Iowa's getting a little healthier wide receiver. But you're asking me to lay now more than 3 touchdowns with a team that's only scored 1 touchdown so far this season. So it's a total non-play for me.
What do your numbers come out to in this Texas A&M Miami game? The market went from 5, I think was the opener at Circa, to 6, 6.5 now market-wide.
Yeah, we're starting to see some steam come in on A&M. It's sharp respected money. It's also Miami's best wide receiver. Looks like he's out. He's probably worth a half point or so. I think A&M's the right side, but it's another one where I didn't get to the window yet. I don't trust either team. Look, Miami hasn't looked that impressive. I mean, they were nearly getting beat at the half by Southern Miss last week.
Good second-half bet there against Southern Miss. They covered that, but they didn't look good in the first half. Really quick, Texas and Texas San Antonio, what's the bounce back like for the Longhorns after that loss?
Well, I wanted to play UTSA. I needed 14, never got there. I will say, I know a lot of people are saying it's a great spot for UTSA. They are off back-to-back overtime games. So, I mean, how much do they got left in the tank? So, right now, current numbers, I actually lean Texas.
Brad Powers with us. FCS numbers, most of them come out when?
You'll start to see some hit the board tomorrow afternoon, but a lot of times it's game day.
And you're playing a lot, right?
I'm playing a ton. I bet 37 of them last week. Went 28-9. So I'm not sure I can replicate that again the rest of the season, but let's just say I anticipate 55+% type of weeks consistently.
What number do you think we see, and where does it go with North Dakota State at Arizona?
North Dakota State, I'm anticipating is going to be about a 2.5, 3-point favorite. I've already bet the game, believe it or not. I bet the Westgate put this number up in the summer. I bet Arizona plus 8.5. I think I'm going to CLV there.
Plus 8.5.
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you think happens in the game?
We'll see. They have won the last 6 against the FBS opponents. And I'll say another thing. They'll have 15,000, 20,000 people in the stands.
I didn't know that. Is that they travel that well, huh?
They do travel that well. So if you're watching that one late night, there might be 50-50 crowd.
So we didn't ask you coming in. Are you actually going to use your tickets tomorrow for North Texas and UNLV?
I am not actually. So do you want what do you want me to give more on the air?
No.
Just too many. Look, it's an earlier start time. Yeah. That's typically not the case, and there's just too many games going on at that time.
That's what I was thinking. No, we don't want your tickets. I was like, man, you bet a lot of games, and to be stuck. The stadium's awesome, but it really is the challenge for bettors. When you go to a game, you could just, kind of out of pocket on all the other games. So tonight, Thursday Night Football, what do we do here? What do we do with the Chiefs and the Chargers?
So I'll be like Vegas, Dave. I'll lay the money line here. I don't have a strong bet. I think it's a bad spot for the Chargers. I'll lay 200 here with KC tonight.
Really?
Well play. I went alt line. I went Chiefs pick at minus 750. So.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Brad, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Good luck this weekend.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
There he is. Brad Powers. BradPowersports.com. You threw me off there.
Why? That was a bad joke, too, because I could just go money line there.
All these VD mentions and
well
play, and I'm just saying, I don't know what the hell's going on.
I
think I'm out on the joke.
I would have. Oh, that's like his thing. It's like a whale play thing.
Okay.
What's it called? I messed up. I wanted to ask him about one of the other movers in the market.
What was it?
Georgia, South Carolina. Georgia opened up 26, down to like 24.
What do you want to do with that game?
I'm just more curious about it. I think so. I was on South Carolina against Arkansas last week, and South Carolina's front seven was beat up by Arkansas's offensive line. It's a really good offensive line, not to give them any credit. But on both sides of the ball, their offensive and defensive lines were less than impressive. And they're going to go against an offensive and defensive line that I think is slightly better than Arkansas. I feel like they're going to get their tails kicked.
I'm encouraged by what we're seeing this week in college football with a lot of quality matchups. And I hope that continues when we have the 12-team playoff. Right? It should. You have a little more leeway, a lot more leeway to make the playoffs. So these games are important.
All of them are important. That's why I never really get the best regular season in all the sports ruined now. Like, what are you talking about? It's more important now than ever. If there's multiple playoff games, then matchups like South Carolina, Arkansas last week actually carry some weight, as opposed to it just being a fun conference matchup between two teams. That actually matters for a team like Arkansas that might have playoff aspirations.
How many games are you going to bet on Saturday? Or because you're working the UNLV game, you're going to kind of go with a lighter slate?
I've got a couple. I've got 3 in mind. So, for example, the reason why I keep asking about this USC game is I took my shot with Stanford over the weekend. Now, I joked about the Jets and the Ravens being right side, wrong result. I think that was a right side, wrong result thing with Stanford. The multiple turnovers inside the 10-yard line were a killer for a team that lost by 13 and ended up, as a 9.5-point underdog was where I got them. I really want to play against USC. I also wanted to lay it with Notre Dame. Brad made me feel a little uneasy about that. But I'm still going to do it because I hate when people do that to me. I was going to bet it, but you talked me out of it. No. I might just play Cal team total under. I haven't seen the number.
You're the man of like 3 voices today. It's like Danny Gans, too.
I don't know who that is.
You don't know who Danny Gans is?
No. I know
Vegas guy?
I know Terry Fader.
Okay. It's more recent, more current. I get it.
The man of 1,000 voices, too.
So any player props in tonight's game?
No, I've got fantasy implications, and that's about it. I got, my sneaky. I'll tell you this. Who might have a bigger role here, and it falls into the player prop market. Clyde Edwards-Helaire in week 1 was fantastic. Usage was way up. And I think that's probably going to be a little bit of a symptom of this new-look Chiefs offense. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, CEH, is going to be a big focal point of this offense this year.
Rushing yards for CEH, 44.5 over-under.
What about rushing receiving?
I don't think they have it available.
Okay. I'd go. If you're giving me rushing receiving, depending on what the number would be, I would look to play that over.
By that I meant William Hill. Obviously, every book has different props. Over under TD passes. Justin Herbert 2.
Under.
Really?
Yeah. I'm assuming it's going to be like minus 135 on the over.
Total sacks in the game. Overs minus 125. The number is 3.5.
Under.
Why?
Because I think that Patrick Mahomes gets the ball out quickly. He's not going to put himself in position to get sacked. Same thing with Herbert, who's also uber athletic.
All right, folks, get on down here. Silver Sevens is the spot. 77-cent beers during all NFL games. 77-cent Bud Light, Bud, Mick Ultra. They get a great 2-dog, 2 bags of chip, and a big beer special, $7.77. Silver Sevens.